city of Cuernavaca with Dr. Laurent Jullier from Paris 3, who has been our keynote speaker this morning. And we are having the 7th National Conference on Film Theory and Analysis here at Cuernavaca. This is the Universidad Autónoma del Estado de Morelos. We want to thank to Universidad Iberoamericana, who had Dr. Jullier with us, and we also want to thank SEPANCINE, Seminario Permanente de Análisis Cinematográfico, and of course Laurent. Dr. Jullier is the author of many important books on film theory and analysis. This morning we want to have a conversation about his two books more directly related to film analysis and his teaching. Analyse des séquences et lire les images de cinéma en. Later we'll touch on number 2. The latter was written with Michel Marie. Dr. Jullier, thank you very much for agreeing to have this conversation with us. I want to start by asking you, what is the importance of the analysis of sequences in the university system in France and the rest of Europe?
The analysis of sequence is a tool in the administrative and academic and high school courses for maybe 15 years. Now it's a major tool for selecting students. It depends if you succeed at the analyse de séquence, you can enter the FEMIS, for example, which is the most famous film school in France. So it's a tool of discrimination between the good and the bad students.
But it's for entering all the careers in the humanities or only film?
If you want, for example, to teach English in the high school, you can choose the analysis of sequence among other options. If you want to teach French, if you want to teach Spanish, you can choose the analysis of sequence.
So it's for film studies and language studies?
Yeah.
From language.
Yeah.
Oh, and 15 years ago. So what were the circumstances that provoked this change? Because traditionally it has been only the analysis of written texts.
Yeah. In my opinion, it is connected with the digital revolution and mainly the spreading of the web, the spreading of internet, and the success of YouTube. When you watch on YouTube, you watch sequences, you watch scenes. You don't want to watch the entire movie. And young people became very accustomed to the notion of excerpt, the notion of short excerpt from a totality. And now the very idea of a short sample of a work of art is very popular among the youth.
And this is the same for all the European universities?
Italy, for example, or Germany are still attached at the entire movie, the entire work. And even in France, outside the academic world, for example, the critics of Cahiers du Cinéma are very reluctant to this notion of excerpt. They are still attached to the integrity of the work of an author.
Are there any courses on film analysis in high school in France?
Yes, when you are a student in high school, you can choose the cinéma et audiovisuel option, and so it's 10% of your total notation.
And is film usually taught in elementary school?
In elementary school, no. some teachers go to the movies with their pupils, but it's an exception. It is not officially studied in the elementary school.
And in television, is there anything on film analysis? Like television, on cultural televition? Any programs or series?
No, it doesn't exist on television. It has. There is a tradition of film critics at the television, but critics is not analysis, like I keep saying every day to my students. It is very, very different.
Right, now coming to the next book. Why it took so long in France to have the first textbook in film analysis for graduate students? It's from 2007, and I was thinking of Marcel Martin in 1955, or Jean Mitry and others, but this is the first textbook like this.
This is the first textbook based on sequences, but not the first textbook on film analysis. The first has been written in 1986 by Michel Marie, Jacquemont, Alain Bergala. It is l'analyse de film, but it does not focus on the sequence or the scene. It focuses on the entire movie.
Why it wasn't until 2007? I'm thinking of what happens in the United States, especially. Well, there is a long tradition of textbooks.
Yeah, this is very different in the United States. There is a particularity in France. There is a confusion between critics and the academic world. And when you say to somebody who is French but not very particularly found in film theory, what is film theory for you? And you will answer, oh, this is cahier du cinéma. Theory is cahier du cinéma. Oh, it is not true. Cahier du cinéma provides examples of critics, maybe sometimes philosophical and aesthetic analysis, but this is not film studies per se. This is different. So in the United States, you have a strong cultural and gender tradition, which is totally unknown or almost unknown in France. So the conditions of the spreading of the knowing are very different.
And finally, the public of these books is different. In the United States, the format is big, with big pictures, a big market. This has smaller pictures, so the publishers know there is a different market in France.
It's a different market. You see, Lire les images de cinéma is a book bought by high school teachers in order to introduce some film analysis into their course of French, history, English, in order to make funnier courses for their pupils.
And when you see the writing of books on film studies in France, I think there is a strong tradition of writing books by forehands. What was your experience? Why did you decide to write with Michel Marie?
I like to write a forehands book because I like to hear what colleagues have to say about a film, and especially colleagues who are very different of me. Michel Marie is 15 years older than me. He has an experience of the mouvement des ciné-clubs just after World War II, which has been very important in France. So he has not at all the same culture than mine. He's very different. He has a different approach of the movies than me. And I've been writing books with an anthropologist, a sociologist, a philosopher, and now I'm writing a book about interpretation with a Canadian semiotician. So people who are very different. I believe into the exchange of knowings.
Now, focusing on film history and analysis, at the end of your conference on Monday at Universidad Nacional, you said you give a lecture on postmodern style and contemporary film, but you mentioned the need or the possibility to rewrite the history of film as, if I understand, history of the gaze.
Yeah.
Why would this be necessary?
Like I was saying this morning, film needs a spectator. You can't pretend. I can't believe film can still be a film, can remain as a film if nobody is looking at him or at it. It's impossible. A film needs a spectator, and all the spectators are different depending on the country, the age, the sex, the color of the skin, the sexual preferences. Every characteristic has an influence on the gaze. And if you watch in 2011, for example, I don't know, Modern Times by Charlie Chaplin, it will not be the same Modern Times than in 1936. Now it's a almost totally different movie. We're seeing other things into the movie. So if the purpose of film analysis is to find what the movie can say, what we can learn from the movie, we have the obligation to study the entire epoch, the times and not only the times of its production, but the times of its viewing. Yeah.
So, do you think this enterprise should be an international and interdisciplinary, or?
Yeah, it's my. It would be marvelous if we could have a true interdisciplinary international collaboration. But it is very difficult to make a true interdisciplinary work, for example, because we have to share some paradigms. If we don't have any paradigms in common, it will be impossible to talk. This morning I had a question from a woman, and I could see our paradigms were totally different. She was from another time of cinema studies. We didn't share anything. Even the words had a different signification when we used them. So it's very difficult to achieve a true interdisciplinary work. 4 hands is a good size. 6 hands, okay. Maybe 8 hands. But if you have a big group of people, it begins to be impossible to work.
So we could think of, for example, a dialogue or an integration of visual studies and categories such as archaeology of the audiences, which is very studied somewhere, and then textual studies with categories such as the implied spectator.
It would be paradise. But, for example, visual studies don't exist in France. No.
Wow. Well, now you have mentioned in some of your papers at the difference between European and American movies. what do you think is the main difference between the traditions of film analysis in Europe, especially in France, and American analysis?
The main difference is formalism. The European, especially the French analysis, is terribly formalist. You know, the political meaning, the affective meaning is perpetually kept in the shadows of the analysis in order to express the form, the hidden meanings, and especially the hidden psychoanalytic meanings, etc., etc. This is the French tradition. You can, even if you don't read the academic papers, you can read the critics. Go to the internet and go to Le Monde in France and go to the New Yorker in the United States and compare the difference between the two critics. In Le Monde, no mention of the script, no mention of the characters, no mention of the feelings. In the New Yorker, script, character, feelings. And it's the same in the academic world. I have only one gender studies colleague in France as a film studies professor. One. And there are hundreds and hundreds in the United States of gender studies researchers in cinema. Unbelievable.
Maybe we have in Latin America a strong influence from France because all the French books are translated in Spanish and American are not. But anyway, I would like to ask what has been the evolution of film, the stages of film studies in France since the creation of the first graded program in 1960?
The first official graduate program, complete from pre-graduate till PhD, date from 1985, the first one. And the evolution has been from the structuralism to aesthetics and history. Now, aesthetics and history are the two dominant paradigms. 25 years ago, it was semiology and narratology. Now, it has totally changed.
Semiology is a forbidden word.
Yes. Yeah. Nobody told no more about semiology. It's a pity. I can regret it. In Italy, it is totally different. Semiology is very important in Italy.
So, what happened? This is France and Italy. What happens in Europe in general?
I don't know.
Oh, too much.
No, yeah.
Now, to finish, an easy question. What is the importance of film studies for society?
You know, with some of my friends who are sociologists, we are beginning a big study on the taste and the practice of cinema in the working class. Till 1945, from 1945 to the end of the 50s. And we began to observe that there is a tradition of film analysis. I mean, to begin with an oral tradition. Workers go to the movies and discuss the movies with their friends, with the family, with the son, with the daughter, and film is a way, like I was explaining this morning about Star Wars and a relationship between a son and his father. The film began a support for discussing the relation, the personal relation with the children, with the grandfather or the grandmother, to resolve conflicts. And to our opinion, my friends and me, this is a kind of film analysis. This is not academic film analysis, but this is popular film analysis, and it exists. And some of these workers, especially during the Mouvement des Ciné Club, described and lived by Michel Marie, some of these workers had some notebooks, and they were writing their impressions on the notebooks for pleasure, but not only for pleasure, in order to clarify their feelings. And this is true film analysis, with their words, which are not our words. We use technical, semiological words, but at the end, this is the same.
And Finish, at the beginning of this conversation, you mentioned the difference between criticism and analysis. Could you summarize this difference?
The main difference, for example, I gave 4 conferences in Mexico, and I never pronounced the word "it's a good movie" or "it's a bad movie." Never. You can check.
Good. Oh, you are preparing second volume?
Yeah. We hope to achieve a second volume connected with the internet and with a French website called Vodcaster. Vodcaster is the biggest website of short film sequences in all the world. And so you can see the sequence and read the book at the same time.
Good. Let us know now what is the address of your personal website and what will we find in it?
www.jullier.net. You will find 60 essays readable, 60 essays, including maybe 10 or 12 in English. Nothing in Spanish, I'm sorry.
Well, that's pretty much. Thank you, Dr. Jullier, for your visit and for your work.
Thank you for the invitation and the questions.